It's a great pleasure for me to be part of this special panel. I believe most of you know about findmyfare.com. It's actually co-founded by myself and my school friend Abhishek Sitampalam. So it started with a simple idea, like we saw the opportunity of e-commerce in the Western world and the time that Sri Lanka is getting prepared for a great boom of e-commerce era. So Find My Fare was initially started with as a price comparison, like where we delivered a comparison to, for instance, when you are looking for a fare to a destination A to B, say Colombo to Singapore, like we displayed all available options on all available airlines which cater that journey. So it gave a transparency to the traditional method of calling an agent where you have to get a quotation. Then there was no transparency as per person A to B. It probably be a different rate offered by the travel company. So whereas the portal that eliminated this confident in the service providers, where that Find My Fare gave 100% transparency to fare rates for any journey that anyone want to make. So I want to go through a few slides, like with the experience that we're running the Find My Fare business, what an e-commerce in the market, Sri Lankan market needs, and what alteration that it requires. So first thing is why people buy online. Like I have picked like the top 5 reasons for anyone to do online shopping. Is the number one being the comparison shopping, that as I explained, the people were able to find out different options available, and then also having a wide range of options, like before Find My Fare, like consumers in the travel market probably didn't even know they have an option of flying to Singapore via going to Kul on a Malaysian Airlines, which is much more cheaper. So the options were open and the price. So obviously coming to online, the customers are expecting that they get a better deal than the offline mode. So the fourth is being a review from other shoppers. Like it's being online, it's facilitate the customers to get reference to portal like much more transparent way than in an offline business. Of course, it saves time for anyone to make an online uh, purchase than a traditional mode. So the reason why that people are not yet going into the behavior of buying online is the main reason being the fear of using a credit card online. So this is can be like, whereas Find My Fare is concerned, we resolve this issue as have alternative payment options, like, so the online shoppers should feel that it's not the only way of purchasing is giving their credit card details. So we have introduced options as like you make a booking online, but you can also transact through your traditional banking and other mode of payments by coming into our outlet. So another reason, like generally a website where purchase decision, like, people do not penetrate to 100% purchase option is the lack of the, like, actually with Find My Fare we had a lot of first time buyers who were transacting online. So we decided that we have to be with the customer throughout the journey of completing that transaction. So we introduced something called a live chat, so that when you are on our website, it pops your screen and we ask how could we assist you, like, it could be the simplest process, but the users, for them, it's something new, like even to enter your own name into a system, people panic. So we provided a support that online, like as the customers are making the purchase decision, someone is there to chat with them. Rather a phone conversation, this was most effective, where we were able to increase more conversions. So the third one being the ability to refund, like, uh, for any e-commerce, it's just not for Find My Fare. The more the secure thing a merchant can provide is, suppose you make a purchase that has to be refunded, because people then tend to um, try the service more often than like not able to, because that being the major reason people are not trying any online product, because they have not got the confidence that product and services can be returned or refunded. So Find My Fare, what we thought, like, to encourage, like, we had seen people uh, using the service but not able to transact, so we introduced something called free refund. So if you make a booking, that you can, if you are not looking to pursue the booking, so you can always request a refund, and the refund process within a short frame of time. So the Find My Fare story, as like when we started in 2012, it has only been a fare comparison site. Then we thought, like, how we move from a fare comparison site to a user engagement site. So we introduced something called Make Free Online Reservation. So where if you could compare the similar services like Expedia in the US market or Make My Trip in the Indian market, none of them had a feature is called free online reservation, because this is something we spotted that unique to a Sri Lankan behavior of buying behavior. So where Sri Lankans, we as a country, we require visas to be obtained to most of the destinations to travel, and purchase decisions are more lengthier than any other countries. So on average, like, we see that people are booking about 21 days before the actual journey time. So to make them comfortable on the booking process, so we developed a product where booking can be reserved like the traditional agent. Sorry, I think I'm running out of my time. I'll just quickly pass through the rest of the slides. Yeah. And a keynote on like e-commerce success, actually, a lot of people make a mistake of like you can put a website, you can drive traffic by various marketing, but end of the day, if you are not analyzing the numbers, uh, the whole thing goes for a waste. So actual the iteration process of a successful e-commerce is how well you know your consumer, how well you know your users. So at Find My Fare, we call Google as our king. Google Analytics, where we study the pattern of the customers, how process of buying process, how long they have spent on site, why they are leaving, and make study these numbers. And because they cannot be, you cannot come up with a one of the best sites and launch a business at any time. Every that could be the biggest mistake any e-commerce make, because they wait for the best product. They come up with all the features in the world, thinking that customer is going to use that. But I think the best process of making a successful e-commerce is you learn from the users and what they are looking for, and go on making what they want. So with time limitations, I'll stop here. If there is any questions in the panel, like, I'm ready to answer. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Just click here for the next slide. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank the Internet Society for inviting me just to give a short presentation. Just to clarify, I'm not here in my capacity as Deputy Chairman of Lanka Century Investments, but as Chairman of the Lankan Angel Network, which does angel investing in Sri Lanka. So I've been asked to say a few words on empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. Before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit about the Lankan Angel Network so you have a understanding of the context. So what is a Lankan Angel Network? It's Sri Lanka's first, and I think still the only alliance of angel investors. We were started in 2012. There are 67 angels currently in the angel network, and essentially we invest our own capital into startup companies in Sri Lanka. So to date, we have invested $5 million in 20 companies in Sri Lanka. As part of this process, we also, there's an Asian Business Angels Forum called ABAF. These are all the leading angel networks in Asia. Last year, we were accredited to that organization, which is very important as they share a lot of best practices in terms of angel investing and startup investing. So we have also formed alliances and partnerships with other angel networks, especially the Indian Angel Network, the Harvard Angel Network in India, the Singapore Angel Network. This is important for us, especially for our entrepreneurs, to scale regionally. So if you have a startup Sri Lanka company and they want to enter the Singapore market or the Indonesian market, we have the contacts and the networks and the resources in place to take those companies into those markets very quickly. This year we've opened an office and an incubation center down Lorries Road. There's 2 floors here. When we first fund startups, we come in there, we give them a desk, office space, legal assistance, accounts assistance, we mentor them, okay, until they gain traction and they move out and get their own space. The Lankan Angel Network also partners with an event called Venture Engine. Some of you might have heard of it. It's an annual business competition. And also something called YAL IT. It's an annual competition now in Jaffna where entrepreneurs from the area come together. We're also looking to expand now into Galle and Kandy and to take the Lankan Angel Network throughout the island. So when we say empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs, I think let's just look at all those key words there. Firstly, this couple of weeks ago, I was invited to lunch by a mutual friend. There was this young Sri Lankan, about I think 29 or 30, he's come back from Stanford and wanted to set up his own business here. And he asked me the question, is there more opportunity now for entrepreneurs than there was 20 years ago? Is it more difficult to make money now than it was 20 years ago? So let's just walk through these and then we'll answer that question at the end. So who is the next generation of entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka? Well, typically they would be between, I would say, 25 and 35. That's sort of the prime age. We have as young as 19 years old and as old as in their 40s. But these are people who grow up with the internet. I mean, today is about 20 years of internet, so a 25-year-old will be 5 years old when the internet was introduced to Sri Lanka. They have literally grown up with the technology, and it has fundamentally changed them. So if you look at us meaning 50 or 45 plus, I mean, I can maybe read a newspaper, I can do one thing at one time. When I look at my children and nieces and nephews, they're texting, they're studying, they're doing all 5, 6 different things, you know. It's a generation that's really highly wired. They have the huge capacity to process information and they're extremely knowledgeable. So that in terms of technology and awareness and empowered, it's already a highly empowered generation. The other key defining thing for the next generation Sri Lanka is they're not from Colombo. What I find is most of the talent actually doesn't come from Colombo, and I think a good analogy is our cricket team. As long as they were from Royal and St. Thomas's, Sri Lanka hardly won anything. And when we went out and we made it island-wide, we drew in a lot of talent, and we see this also happening. There's a lot of raw talent, and combined with the technology and the access they have to information, there's a deep pool of next generation entrepreneurs that are coming in. So that's sort of to define who they are, but what is their context today in terms of what are the opportunities in Sri Lanka? And here also, if you go back 20 years, and if you say, look at sort of the industries that had momentum in Sri Lanka, it was based on cheap labor. We had the apparel industry, the sweatshops. It was multinationals coming in. We had the BOI and the GCC promoting free trade zone, but it's all based on the premise of cheap labor. And cheap labor means low wages, low standards of living, right? So make it cheaply in Sri Lanka and export it. And when we look at it today, it's not that. Entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka are actually sitting on a huge opportunity in terms of it's not about that labor arbitrage, it's about the Asian middle class consumers who are coming up. It's a massive market that's evolving right on our doorstep. In company I work with also Dankoto, earlier we were looking at exporting to the US, now we're looking at India. Okay, the whole focus of the center of gravity has shifted, and that's really what the opportunity is here. If you look at even tourism, right? Okay, I'll move on quickly, right? So how can they be empowered? Well, they're already, I think, highly empowered. They're knowledgeable, but empowerment is not really about giving tax subsidies or anything like that. It's about creating the capacity for them to execute. And what we saw here, I was watching last night, people having the first internet connection, and that's empowerment. Now we have a whole generation that has come up like that. So I think to answer the question, is there more opportunity? There's a huge amount of opportunity. It's to connect all the dots and to refocus ourselves and to go after the right opportunity. So I cut my presentation there and move on to the panel.
Thanks for inviting me here. So I'm from Creately. We founded this company, myself, my friends, Hiraj Taufik, Nick Foster, and Chandika Singh. We founded this when I was in Australia, but then everything very soon after shifted to Sri Lanka, and basically Creately is a Sri Lankan company. So we are a pure internet software company, software as a service. And we help you draw diagrams from flowcharts to mind maps to UML, software design diagrams, wireframes, various things. And we compete with Microsoft Visio. So what my topic is how do you actually build a internet startup from somewhere like Sri Lanka, where you don't have a lot of connections or you're not in the valley, where usually all these innovations come from, as people think. So just a bit about Creately. So Creately helps you gives you the most seamless diagram experience there is, and you spend very little time and you get beautiful looking diagrams. And a little bit about the company. We were founded in Australia but built in Sri Lanka. Everything is we have 6 product variations from online to desktop, server version, things that plug into other platforms from Google to Atlassian. We have thousands of shapes, 5 out of 5 rating from most of our users. We have 800,000 people using it, and we have 2.2 million diagrams created on the platform. And so it's used by some awesome customers from Google to NASA to Disney to IBM and lots of other nice companies. And none of these companies we didn't know them, we didn't go and sell to them. They basically discovered us on the internet, tried our software out, and paid for it with a credit card. So that's how we run our business. So how did we do this? From day one, we help you draw beautiful diagrams. That's some diagrams created with Creately. So how did we do it? So we were a bunch of engineers mostly, and we thought internet scale from day one. It's an internet company, and we only focused things that mattered for us to be an internet company. And we, the core skill that we had, we focused on the thing that we have rather than things that we don't have, from money to connections to validation to everything else, was basically we could build a good product. So we built something that was, at the time of its launch, was best in class. So it was better than anything else. So it was very easy for us to show people and say, hey, this is, completely blows everything out of the water. You should try this. We could do that at the time. Then we found validation at a global scale. So even though we were in a corner in an island here, we launched in the Silicon Valley, and we launched. We only spent for our plane tickets. We launched at large conferences like Demo Fall and TechCrunch, and they chose us purely based on merit. We basically applied for these conferences to launch, told them why we mattered and why our product was better, and we had an online interview, and then basically from there on, they said, come and show us your stuff, and we launched there. So we used that validation to then build PR for the company. So we did we got a lot of good press in lots of good publications, and that validation basically brought in the initial batch of customers. So after that, we kept on building on top of that, and basically grew the traffic for the site, figured out a model where we get people from the internet and basically convert them into customers. So there were lots of many failed experiments, and we kept our costs uber low. We, most of us didn't take salaries. We worked out a very small house, lots of cost cutting, until we figured out how to actually make this company work. After we figured that out, we basically started scaling, and we are growing at the moment. So that's how we did it.
We have two entrepreneurs who, one is doing actually internet startup, the one is a software startup. I want to change this question a little bit and ask, so instead of thinking about entrepreneurs on internet, how can entrepreneurs today use internet to make their startups better, or what experience you have had in your entrepreneurship life that internet has really helped get your startups going?
So the internet makes everything, if you look at it that way, it makes everything flat. So you have access to information, you have access to markets, you have access to markets that were not viable before. For example, we are focusing on a very small niche thing. We are helping people draw flowcharts. So how many people are out there drawing flowcharts? There's a lot of people, but it's very hard to reach them if you are in a different setting, if it wasn't for the internet. So you would have to have Microsoft distribution ability to get to those customers. So the internet basically makes it possible for a company somewhere, anywhere in the world to reach out to any customer in the world. So that's a big enabler. And you basically have to think in that way, think that it's possible, and then the internet will help you.
Any point of view from that?
Actually, the access to data, like from wherever you are and what time ever, the online business actually opens on a 24-hour service. You could the information you don't have to wait till tomorrow morning to go to a shop to find an information, or you have to go to tomorrow and find from an airline. So online make it access. Nowadays, if you look at from e-commerce, we are all moving to m-commerce, mobile commerce. And in Sri Lanka especially, a lot of people, their first point of use of internet is coming to mobile. So the reaching to a customer from his comfort is really exciting for e-commerce. You don't have to have a fabulous office to entertain your client. You're going to entertain your client on his bed, on his dining area, on his couch, where he's comfortably sitting and making the purchase decisions, which is great for this, happy to be in this era of internet, which is growing, and be part of that.
So from the Lanka Angel Network point of view, how has internet helped the current entrepreneurs coming through?
I think you see, firstly, a lot of the business models are based on the internet. If not for the internet, these businesses simply won't exist. But also a lot of non-internet, for example, we have funded uh, an eco-tourism, it's based on tree houses, okay? And she has built this hotel with just 1 million rupees per room, but she charges the equivalent of what a 10 million rupee per 4-star hotel, and she reaches her clientele through the internet. So it's given access, that market reach, which you simply couldn't do earlier.
So another point of internet is how internet is helping build internet-ready businesses. So if you look at the software industry, the previous generation, pre-internet, they all originated from developed countries. Microsoft, Oracles built this large software, and everybody bought that. But internet seemed to change that. There's a lot more opportunities for local businesses, regional businesses. What's your take on that?
So the internet has, so because of the open source movement and lots of resources available on how to build a technology company on the internet. I'll speak from that perspective. Your costs of starting a company is extremely low. Most of the time, it's only your time. So that actually, changes the dynamics for starting companies. And there's a lot of education about how can you make sure that you don't fail, or how can you make sure that you can fail faster and move on from that, already built into the system. So lots of people are out there to help you, guide you. There's a lot of educational material that's available online if you're just looking for it. So that basically makes entrepreneurship a lot easier than it was. It's never easy for you to execute it in the long term. Obviously, there's lots of work that's required. However, it's easier than ever before to get started because of all the resources available.
How do you see that from?
I think also for me, the biggest change in, like, if you see the company they created, is that their self-belief that they could do it, right? And I think that's what having access to now. We first got TV when we were 16 years old. You're cut off from the world. You had access to the local newspapers. But this is a generation that has grown up with access to, all this information, and they don't see themselves as different to a kid in the US or England or anywhere else. They think, if they can do it, I think that's change in mindset has happened. And I think that's really where it it's not, the technology is everywhere, right? But it's whether you have the self-belief that you can. I think that's really what we have seen that has been triggered.
My opinion on that, like, actually the social media has contributed a lot, like, for instance, like, reaching to that online, like, was so difficult five years ago. Like, people needed to had the knowledge set to set a website, or even if you want to do a small time e-commerce, like selling flower bouquets online, it wasn't so easy for someone to set and reach to that customer. But where social media have empowered that in a very different way. Today, a housewife, if she want to sell some, like, some cupcakes that she makes, it's possible. Like, she opens a, like, now Facebook and Twitter, the Google Plus, the social media. He's taken a completely a different approach to how internet business was. Like, where, like, as he mentioned, like, the minimum investment, and now it's coming to minimum knowledge also. Like, whereas anyone can be there if they had the passion to do.
So if there are young people who want to become entrepreneurs, so people who have done something, who have been successful, who have been supporting entrepreneurs, what advice would you give today? How should they go about doing that? Somebody said before, the biggest thing is the parents. You have to deal with the parents before you can start a company. What do you think?
Yeah, after you get through your parents, I think what you need to have is first you'll probably have an idea, and you think this idea is the most amazing thing in the world, and you might not want to tell other people about this idea because you think you steal this idea. So this is the most common mistake that most people make. and that is the worst thing that you can do, because the most important thing is it's okay to have an idea, but you also have to have customers if you're trying to build a company. So you need to talk to people and see if this idea will actually work. So even before you do anything, you should actually tell everybody you know that about your idea and how this will work and so on. And if your idea is no good, nobody would steal it anyway. If your idea is good, somebody might steal it, but even then, it's as in there's a saying, you know, a company is 1% inspiration and 99% respiration. So there's a huge amount of work and lots of millions of dishes that you will have to make in making your company a success. So it's likely that even if somebody else copies you, they will not make the same decisions that you will make. So your paths will diverge dramatically. So the best thing, the most important advice is to tell everybody and validate your idea as early as possible.
So I think the first thing is, if you're out only to make the money, you're not an entrepreneur. I think there's much easier ways to make money. Entrepreneurship is not about making the money. Money is a byproduct. It's really doing something that you're really passionate about, and the money becomes really a byproduct of that. And it's really to having the courage to. I don't think parents are such a big issue today. We just closing a funding for 2 Unistore Moderator students from Jaffna. They're starting an IoT company, and they came and we were halfway through this, and they said, look, we've got job offers for 150K, versus, and for them, they are putting no money into the deal, right? So they keep 70% of the company. We kicked in actually almost 7 million rupees. So it's not the idea that is worth that money, but it's our belief in their ability to execute on it. Idea is worth nothing, right? But we can see these 2 guys are so passionate, and they are top class engineers, and they really are, and they really want to have an impact. And so if you want to be an entrepreneur today, I can remember when we struggled just to raise a couple of thousand rupees. Right? Today, if you have the talent and you have the idea and you have the drive and the vision, right? The funding and everything else is there.
Yeah, my opinion is like there is no perfect timing. Like like if you believe in something, don't ever wait for I have to complete this, I have to acquire this experience, and I have to do it. Like it's like sailing on a ship. So you have to make, when you are aspired by an idea, you will definitely get people joining your team. You will make a perfect team if you are really pursuing your dream. So I'd like to share another story. Like recently I was at a conference in Singapore. I happened to have lunch with a very young gentleman. So we were cross exchanging our ideas, and he said, I have an idea using taxi system to delivery for e-commerces, where when a taxi goes and it returns free, so it can use. So he seems to be very young. So then I asked, how old are you? He was 14-year-old. So then I asked, didn't you go to school today? Because it was a Wednesday there. Then no, I skipped school because his parents are both teachers. So he wanted to prove a point that going to school doesn't really make anything for him. So we see people at the young age like that already, the confident level of a person at 14 years old. It's really amazing to see. And there are so many examples in Sri Lanka also, how the younger generations with confidence they are entering to the e-commerce arena. I think we have a lot more to come in the coming years to be excited about e-commerce.
I think we have little bit time. I want to open the questions for the floor. Anybody who we have amazing talent here, people who have started companies, people, who are funding companies. Instead of me asking questions, I won't see anybody else want to ask questions. This is your opportunity. Oops, sorry. Oh, okay, okay, start where the mic is. We'll throw the mic afterwards. Sorry.
Good evening for you. I just want to know what is the basic process we need to go out to get backed up from the Sri Lankan Angel Network.
Go to lankanangelnetwork.com. Fill in as a questionnaire if you have a project, and then we get in touch with you within a couple of days. Very simple.
It's also part of the internet. Okay, questions there?
Yeah, actually, my question is a little bit different, maybe like because I started up a company maybe 10 years back. Thing is like it's sort of electronic product development company. So the thing is, I faced a lot of issues because I mean we had to reinvent the wheel. Like I mean, no infrastructure was here and things like that. And what I feel is like if you start a company, like, first you have to have sort of a financial backup to back ourselves for at least 1 year. Like I mean, because at that time I was independent from parents, like of course. So I mean, and the other thing I had is like there were no, like when I get sort of big projects, there were no place to get loans. Like I mean, even if I get a sort of solid POs or even from the government, so no one was willing to fund. Like I mean, I had to sort of mortgage my house. Like, do you sort of help that type of
The
situation?
question is, what you're asking is, has the funding situation changed?
So that's why we started the Lankan Angel Network. Startups shouldn't be relying on bank loans. I mean, I think that's the road to disaster. So typically, our startup funding comes in and the founder draws the salary. Okay, it's no different to doing something else, but they earn what's called sweat equity. Those founders work. You know, one founder is worth 10 corporate employees. Let me put it that way. You know, the drive and the vision, I don't think a corporate employee can even match. You know, so, and that's what basically that we're backing.
Yeah, actually, so like my other question was like, I mean, if it's not a startup, like maybe a sort of grown company,
Yes,
not
even
really
if,
grown.
yeah, even if it's we have a few situations like that where there are already existing companies and they need some backing to scale. We certainly will look at that as well.
Oh.
Really, it's not really the life of the company. It's really, we don't fund what's called lifestyle businesses. So if you want to open a hairdressing salon or whatever, those are lifestyle. We fund companies that have growth and scale, that can create jobs, you know, and can access large markets and so forth.
Thank you.
Good evening all. I'm a student studying in India. I would like to do a startup. And how could I be able to use the internet managing my company from India, like in studying in India by studying?
You want to do a startup in
want to
Sri
do a startup
Lanka?
Yeah.
Managed from India.
Anything's possible. It depends on what the idea is, and you know. But
the-
but really for us, the key thing that we are backing is not your idea, whatever. It's the person. So we need to have access to the person. You know. So we interact almost daily with the founders of companies. You know. So financing is a very localized business. Very rarely would you find angel investor from a foreign country funding someone, say for example in Sri Lanka. So there's a lot of mentoring and information that goes back and forth.
I think if you look at founding a company, most of the successful entrepreneurs put 24 hours a day into a company. So in some sense, part of that is you're studying and doing a company. It might be a hard thing because you might
like
not be
just
able to
managing.
might not have that. But on the other hand, I think if you have your mind share going, the physical location today might not have too much of it.
India also has a very strong angel network. We work very closely with them. I'd be happy to put you in touch with there's a Mumbai angel network, a Chennai, a Delhi, and there's an Indian angel network for all of India. I'd be happy to put you in touch if you just come to our website and ask for the assistance. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Get a mic. Oh, there's a question there. Okay, we'll go back to yeah. Siri, why don't you are before they are trying to ask you.
Want me to talk?
Oh, go for it.
What?
Go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Siri Samarakode. I'm an electronics engineer by profession, and one of my first ventures was manufacturing electronic components. They're basically land transformers, And we got the Presidential Export Award twice, 1993, 1994, and we had over 1,000 employees. Now, the whole problem is this, getting past the first angel network era is not the problem in Sri Lanka, okay? You can somehow get through that. It's the second stage. Now, I couldn't go from making land transformers to lands. So moment the Chinese entered the market, we had to go. So we started exporting parts to Toyota. Then my guy in Japan came and started his own factory in Vietnam and cut me out. So the whole problem is working capital here. Let's say another company I was involved with was Celtel. That was also owned 50% by Sri Lankans and 50% by foreigners. But beyond that first initial startup stage, we had no access to capital to take the same forward. Same problem happened with Lanka Internet. When the TRC decided to give our business back to all the telcos and cut us out, we had to do about turns and get into other areas like e-commerce. Now, before we could do that, they sold our shares under our feet, having made dividends throughout the history, and sold the company to asset strippers. So the second round of financing is the biggest problem in Sri Lanka, not the first.
Can I answer this? Sure. So I think you hit the nail on the head. So the Lankan Angel Network, our typical financing is about 10 million rupees for a transaction. The next thing we are doing is launching what's called a Series A fund, which will provide between $1 to $3 million investments into later stage companies. There's definitely a void there.
Okay, we'll one last question.
Yeah, my question for the myfair.com. My name is Deepati Gunawardena. I have frequently visiting for the myfair.com. How do you basically start the selling your site? If you have a site, no one visit, they don't know the site. How do you start it? What is the basic things you have follow for that?
Actually, like the idea, we launched the website in 2012. Honestly, like for the first year, the revenue that company made, what we make in 3 days now, the initial days, we were not really focusing on transactions. More, we were an information site, so whereas that we facilitated fair comparison. So even in the industry, it became a tool we became a bargaining tool. Though that in the initial days that we didn't have transaction, we were empowering the customers. So what we hear from the industry is people walk into a typical travel agent and say, hey, look, I got this rate on findmyfair.com. Why are you quoting more? So we never had transaction, but customer was empowered with the information. So which it is a very slow process in Sri Lanka. I mean, honestly speaking, from the day one, we didn't hit any transaction. It took at least about good 2 years to build a customer confident to use this service. So my personal opinion for any e-commerce, you should, it could be even you sell electronics item or any kind of product. Initial stage of your website is going to be more informative. People are not going to really buy on the very first day. So, but what they expect, through that process, what they're expecting are you providing the right, correct information, and are you be quick in providing updated information. So, so we were very glad, we had a good product which was accurate, market information was delivered, and even in the industry, people airlines started to use Find My Fare for their pricing tool. So Sri Lankan Airlines want to price a specific route cheaper than a Singapore Airlines. So we started, the times how we heard it, we had some downtime. I get calls from the airline partners saying what happened to your site because we are unable to use. So even though the transactions are not happening, we were we had the demand was there for information. So the same way, so that we were seeing about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 daily site visits growing as it goes, like, so then at time, then we customers might have thought like, okay, why should I, like, check at Find My Fare, go to a traditional shop? So they take the transition as it, like, because obviously we had a lot of offers also launched with that to encourage online transaction, but the process happened very with the customers confident, and comfort.
Okay, I think this is amazingly interesting time for entrepreneurship. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of people are excited. And for people who are interested in entrepreneurship, I think there are a lot of opportunities like what Lanka Angel Network is providing to become entrepreneurs. I want to say one thing that that I am involved in. Every year we have this program called Global Startup Labs that from MIT, we bring about 4 students from MIT to Sri Lanka during the summer months, during July to August, and have an incubator to build a startup, technology-related startup, most IT-related startup. And this next program is starting in July. So right now we are looking for people who want to be entrepreneurs. So there's all these opportunities. Take part, getting all these opportunities. I think this is the best time because we are in a position. The entire market is shifting. There's an entire set of opportunities internet and these new technologies introducing. And this kind of opportunities, even though right now it feels like day to day, in 10 years, it might not happen. So you are in an amazing time. I think a lot of people can take advantage of that. Hope some of you will take advantage of these opportunities. With that, I think we had amazing day today with a lot of great talks, and I hope everybody enjoyed. I don't know how we are going to conclude, so I think we'll conclude the panel session now.
Thanks so much.